Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt, once again here on Toxic Radio, and Mr. Toxic Mike is with me in the studio. And we are on day number, let me check my diary here, 4,825 of COVID.
I knew you had a diary.
I do. And, it's again, it just goes on and on. This goes on and on.
This is the ride that never ends.
Right. But
it doesn't. It's not going to end. It is the new norm. Be prepared to wear these long, and I'm holding up a mask, long into 2021.
Oh boy. Well, at least tonight is a fun night because we're kicking off the month of October. Finally, the month of the Halloween season, or the well, you know what I'm getting at, the Halloween month.
Yes.
And we have a fun show tonight. This is a show that I actually recorded a couple of weeks ago with a gentleman by the name of Sal Santoro. And Sal is a really interesting guy. He grew up in Massachusetts, New England area. And basically he grew up in a very Catholic, Italian Catholic family. But it did not take with him. And so when he moved out west, he looked into some other alternative types of religions, and he fell into Wicca, and he kind of got involved in witchcraft and the occult. And now 30 years down the road, he owns an apothecary shop in Burbank, just outside of Hollywood, with his wife. The shop's called The Crooked Path, and basically he is an expert in all things spells, conjurings, the occult. But he is, it's interesting because he really wants to promote the truth behind the word occult and the idea of spellcraft and witchcraft and things of that nature. It's gotten a very bad rap over the years, especially the word occult. People hear occult and they think evil. But like he says in the interview, occult just means hidden. That's literally what the word translates to. So, it's hidden knowledge that most people aren't aware of. And he has basically made a life for himself over the last, like I say, 30 years out there, catering to people that want to find out about other options, other ways of doing things. And and he has a real interesting point of view, and he's an awesome guy. And it's ironically, given the overall topic, it's a very positive and uplifting type of interview. So I think it's going to be real interesting to hear this angle on something that is normally looked at negatively. He doesn't look at it that way, and you'll see why. So without any further ado, we have a interview with Sal Santoro. And Mike, take it away, man. All right, joining us on the show tonight, we have a very special guest. He is the co-owner of The Crooked Path, a traditional witchcraft shop located in Burbank, California. With over 30 years experience, Sal Santoro has practiced various occult systems, which include traditional witchcraft, ceremonial magic, planetary magic, voodoo, and spellcraft. Today, you can find him mixing herbs, creating custom spell candles, and blending essential oils, and he's always looking to help people and teach those with a thirst for occult knowledge, as well as demystifying this misunderstood craft. And as I said, he is with us today on Paradelphia. Sal, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And great name. I like the name of your show.
It is unique. People tend to like it.
Very
It came
cool.
in, it came to me in a flash, and I just used it.
Paradelphia. That's great.
Yeah. So now, Sal, we mentioned this. We were talking off air a little earlier. You grew up in the New England area.
I did.
And that is definitely has a tradition for occult practices and such.
Mm-hmm.
How did that influence your childhood and your young adulthood?
It really did influence me a lot. I'm an Italian American descent. My grandparents are from Naples, Italy. I'm second generation technically. I did grow up in New England. I grew up partially in Massachusetts and then partially in New Hampshire. Spent my formative years there. I was actually born in Los Angeles. My parents, after World War II, my parents came out and situated. But then 2 years after I was born, my dad saw the riots coming, and he's like, "We're going home." And so we went back east, and I was raised in New England. And the occult came to me very quickly. I was always an investigative child. I always wanted to challenge authority, challenge what people believed were the standards. Growing up in that time frame, but being a young teen, it was, I was part of like the original, or OG punk rock generation. We used to go to the channel and see Black Flag and Fear and all these obscure Jodie Foster's Army punk bands. And grew up with a really good best friend who's now no longer with us. And we had always, talked about it. When you grow up in the woods of New England, you can't help but know that it exists. And, you can't go a mile into the woods back home and fall into a graveyard of 6 people that was just forgotten in time during the Middlesex time, the years of early pre-country, right? So that was always going on. And as much as the mystical sides of it was going on, I was always very much a realist. I never experienced a lot of paranormal activity. But my best friend, who I was talking about, he said, "Hey, we should check out witchcraft and magic." And he brought out 777 by Aleister Crowley. And now we figure this is probably 81, 82. So what would that be? I would be 15, so I'm like 15 looking at, if you tried reading that now at 56, it still doesn't make sense. Crowley is really hard to understand anyways. And we cracked it open, and the next thing you knew, he's like, "We're going to conjure Isis and call her." And I'm like, "Oh, let's do this, of course." And
just a Saturday afternoon,
Saturday afternoon in New England, right? And that's what we did for like 6 months. And I just found my way in from there. And but even prior to my best friend, I was doing weird things. Again, growing up in New England, I'm not really so much astrologically bound. I know how to work with my sun sign and my various signs in my chart, but I don't dedicate 100% of my occult knowledge and time to that. But I am a Virgo, and my rising is actually Capricorn, and my moon is Taurus. So that's trine in Earth. And when I was a little kid, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I was getting boxes and filling them with dirt, acorns, sticks, rocks, and shoving them under the bed. And my mom, of course, would come in to clean my room, and she'd be like, "What the hell is going on here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It just makes me feel better." And it did, because I was a kid with attention deficit disorder, and it was before they knew really what that was back then. It was just hyperactivity. Right. And so I dealt with that in my school life, but that made me very calm. And I always spent my time in the woods. And then I found I talked to my dad. I'm like, "Oh, God came up." And long story short, I was like to my dad, I'm like, "What are we?" And he said, "Well, we're Catholic, we're Italian." So I'm like, "Okay, what does that mean?" Because they didn't force religion on me, So my dad he's like, we go to church, we pray to God, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, "I want to do this." So he took me to this church. And of course, being in New England, everything is Gothic, with the red candles. And you know what churches are like back home. You live around.
Right.
So my first vision was, "Oh, this is amazing," and it was like Dracula in the dark and in the purple glass. And, so I got into it, and I wanted to go every week. And then after about 3 weeks, told my dad, I'm like, "I want to be an altar boy." And he's like, "Well, you've got to be a little more serious about it. You got to go to school on the weekends," which I hated. And I'm like, "I want to do it. I'll do it. I'll just go to school on the weekends and learn catechism." So I did this, and then I became an altar boy. And I loved the regalia from the get-go. So I had the white black gown, and I held the thing with the cross, and it was just all the chingadera, as we call them, gathered around me, and I was into it. And then my dad checked in with me in 3 months, and he's like, "So what do you think?" I'm like, "I think I want to be a priest." I'm like 13, and he's like, hey, you need to slow down. He's like, if you get this, you can't ever be with a girl. You can't get married. You have to be married to the church. And I'm like, oh, I got that. I'm totally good. So 5 more months went by. And I would go to church on my own and go to these classes because it was right in a local New England neighborhood. You could just walk,
Right.
So one day my dad's like, aren't you going to catechism today? I'm like, and I quit. And he was like, what do you mean you quit? I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. He's like, but you said you wanted to be a priest. And I'm like, well, I decided that after reading more and watching it, I realized that I'd rather be God. And he lost his shit. And then it became, oh my God. And so that started me on my path to witchcraft. And, and ceremonial magic.
So with all that, was it more what attracted you more? Was it the ceremony, or was it the actual belief in what was being said in church, or was it the trappings and the ceremony that really attracted you?
Pomp. It was the pomp and the circumstance and the art and the visuals. It's a lot like rock and roll to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like think about '73 when you had Kiss on stage.
Right.
Right. It was like, oh my God, they're like gods. They're like these gods, and that's how everything was visual to me. So, when I was into it, anything that I've got into in my whole life, when I find something I like, I obsess on it. Mm-hmm. So I just have to get all the knowledge I can. And that's what it's all about, really where it started me off.
Cool. Now, reading a little bit about your history and about your not your childhood, but your young adulthood. You went out to LA at one point, and it says you sought out. This is interesting to me. You sought out pagan groups as well as Wiccans, and to me that would seem like they were polar opposites.
That's a typo.
Oh,
pagan groups as well as Wiccans. Well, paganism is a product. Neo-paganism is a product of what would be Wicca, because Wicca developed in 1959 by Gardner, and it's the duality of feminine and masculine and multiple deities that you can worship.
Okay.
So in that perspective, paganism is there, but people tend to be pagan and maybe not Wiccan, and vice versa.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what that was there. I'd like to.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, I'll have to find out where I read that. But
yeah, let's go back on that.
But as far as it's interesting what you just said, though, because you said paganism came out of the Wiccan religion, or was
paganism was way before Wicca.
Okay.
Wicca is that Wicca. Remember, Wicca was a developed concept by Gerald Gardner. In 1956, you could still be tried and hung as a witch, and then he helped having that Witchcraft Act repealed in England, in Britain.
Yeah. Okay.
And he developed the system of Wicca through the concepts of ceremonial magic, because he ran into certain people at the Isle of Man. And that was people like Doreen Valiente, Aleister Crowley. These people were all around him, and he learned a lot. He was really into the structure of it. But at that point, Gardner was a writer of novels, and then he wrote Witchcraft Today, and about this witch cult and the growth of it. And next thing you knew, after meeting Doreen Valiente and learning about the structure, and Dion Fortune and the Golden Dawn, he started putting this together and created what we know as Wicca. And there was a woman named Dorothy Clutterbuck, who they really can't find. We don't know if it was a made-up name or not, but that's who he said he got his structure from, as far as the old gods in pagan Europe. So dealing with the dualities of the feminine and the masculine, and the agricultural wheel of the year, and phases of the moon and the sun moving, and how they both based their old gods, and then built from there.
Yeah. Now you do a lot of ceremonial magic.
I did more.
and other things, other metaphysical traditions like that. So when you started doing this, did you already have this like unshakable belief that this was all real, or were you doing it kind of like to show yourself, to test it, to see if it really would work when you started doing stuff like that?
That is a great question. I'm going to preface with this. Before, I get interviewed time to time, your questions are really good. because I really appreciate them. You do. These are really well thought out questions. And the Golden Dawn, again, the pomposity of it all, the art, the structure, the ritual. I love ritual. What is ritual? It's repetitious. It's something you do over and over again to get a desired result.
Right.
And these things attracted me. I believe that when I found the Golden Dawn, it was just like the light went right into me, and it just brought me right in. By the time I found the Golden Dawn, I had already done a year and a day with 2 different covens.
Okay.
And moved on from there. But the Golden Dawn, just in my skimming of it and understanding basic concepts on the tree of life. I mean, I don't know how much Kabbalah you've studied or the mystical perspectives on it, but
I have not, no.
In my 30 odd years of this, I know enough that would fill a thimble. It's going to take me the rest of my life to know Kabbalah. And I am not Lon Milo Duquette. I mean, that's a master of the art, okay? I am not there at all. But I know the tree of life. I know my Hebrew. I know the paths in between. I understand the concept. I know why we do outer order materials like LBRP, BRH, Rose Cross, these rituals, doing the great work to connect with the Holy Guardian Angel, or my HGA. And these things I was reading on before I joined. And to know that I could actually experience the current in a temple, definitely that's what ramped me up to get there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now the Golden Dawn, if I'm not mistaken, is that that's the same organization that years ago was popularized by Aleister Crowley?
Yeah. Aleister Crowley didn't popularize it. He was one in the order. Remember, A.E. Waite was also in it. Oscar Wilde was in it. Eliphas Levi was part of it. McGregor Mathers, Dion Fortune. There's a lot of great names where that came in, and Crowley was one of those names. He made a name for himself when he left the Golden Dawn and became this punk rock persona, and went on and said, screw it, I'm doing it my way, and here's all the information. Because he was a very intellectual man. He was a very smart man, and he mainlined right into it and got into the inner order before he left. And then he took that with him and gave it to whoever wanted it, and then restarted what was called the Thelemic traditions, or the Temple of Thelema, and the OTO. So that's an offshoot. And that's where Crowley really started to become, who he was, Elias, and working in the Baphomet energies and stuff.
Okay. Now, as far as whether it's the Golden Dawn or just ceremonial magic in general, there's a lot of misconceptions out there among, everyday mainstream, media and people in general. What do you find to be the most egregious misconceptions about what you do?
Well, this goes into witchcraft and ceremonial magic, just the occult practice, and as a whole, the whole sphere of the occult, not just a slice of it. I've spent my time in my shop making it as available to people as I can, and giving them the basic knowledge that I can, and demystifying it. Stop making it about things that are media induced, bump in the night, spooky stories, and things along those lines. It's more about working with the macrocosm in ceremonial magic, and in witchcraft it's about the microcosmic aspects, working to satiate the needs that you have in regular life. That's where witchcraft comes into play, because it's spell work for things that we want. But when we start getting philosophical about Kabbalah and the tree of life, this is more the macrocosmic work, the great work that develops us into the person that we wish to become. that is better in balance and in harmony with other things.
Okay. So how and why do you think was the idea so I don't know how to even word this question. How was the idea of ceremonial magic and occultism and all of this stuff that you guys do twisted in such a huge way and misconstrued by everybody who looks at it like it's an evil thing? Because a lot of people would look at your shop,
Oh my gosh,
and I've seen shops like that. My wife and I go to New Hope, Pennsylvania a lot.
Nice.
And by the look of your shop, you could take that and drop it right down in New Hope, and it would fit right in. So we've seen places like that, and I think they're cool. Like I enjoy playing around and seeing what people believe in and what's out there that isn't mainstream. But a lot of people don't look at it that way. Where does the fear come from, do you think?
I think the fear, and a lot of people are going to say the church, but that's not necessarily true. Fear is built up especially in our time. I'm sure you're a little younger than I am, but still, and in the block of 60 or 70 years of time, media is built on that. I mean, I believe that, and as time progressed and media expands to where we are now, I mean, now we have Instagram and stuff,
Right.
In my day, we had video cassettes and heavy metal. If you remember the PMRC, which was just, stopping Poison from putting out an album cover, or the Knights in Satan's Service being Kiss, who was a bunch of Jewish guys,
Right. Right.
Media, it's media induced, but, I'm sure the church has a lot to do with that. Because if people find something that can cause change with will and to create a physical change on this plane by working in a basic mathematical system, and I look at it as math, as a math equation, then the church feels that they're going to be put in the back seat, right? Because they're not needed. You don't need to pray to God, or you don't need to go through the priest to get to God to get this request.
Right.
And
it's the same idea behind alien UFOs and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Stephen Greer,
Right. The church doesn't want to have that out there because then something they can't explain becomes something that people question them about. And if there's no answers, then right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's okay. So you lose the foothold, and but it was also that way in metal. Like I think about 1987 to 1992, and I always go back to rock and roll because it's a fever for me. But let's look at Motley Crue. What was their symbol? It was that big ass pentagram on Tommy Lee's drum set. Look at Black and Lawless and Wasp. What was that all about? It was like hell and all this "We Are Sexual Pervert" Wasp's logo and sexuality and bondage and all that stuff. But it sold. Those guys weren't occultists. They were businessmen. You know what I mean? Prince sold androgyny. Those guys sold shock, and it worked. But then people got a hold of that, and then you get the silly kids. And then by the end of the 80s, we had what was called satanic panic. So everybody was like, I was possessed, and I went to a house and they were killing all these children that nobody ever heard of. You know what I mean? It was like drummed up, and then in the end, we found out it was all bullshit. Sorry for swearing, but
fun.
And that's where all this is coming from. Media induced, and if people have to stand on their own and can cause change with their will, that makes them guess their spirituality. See, for me, my spirituality and me doing spellcraft, to me, that's like making a pizza. I love making pizza. You know what I mean? It's an art to me, but it's by no means a spiritual action every time. It's something I need to do to cause change, to bend the reality I'm in to get the result that I want.
Okay. So in your shop, you sell the means, the physical, tangible means to do these things, candles and herbs and so forth.
Yes.
But you also mix stuff for people and
Yes.
show them how to use the products. Is that
Yep.
correct?
If you came in my store, the difference between my store and the other stores, and I love all of them. My store is no better. I have no problem with people locally going to Green Man, who is like less than a mile away, because they're friends of mine.
Mhm.
I mean, people, people of a feather flock together, right?
Right.
But if you come into my shop, you can sit down in a chair, and I don't care if you spend $5 or $500, or you just want a bottle of water and talk about the philosophies of this with me. That's what you can do.
Right.
I am here to open up and just pour out, and that's what happens. And is that the byproduct of that is we sell a candle or we don't. I don't. That doesn't move me. Money doesn't move me,
So it's
and
more
that's why
about
we're becoming successful.
it's more about helping the people and giving them the information.
Giving them the information. I mean, I'm not Mother Teresa. I've got a bad day, and you can look. It's really crazy because I've got like 65 people on Yelp giving me 5-star reviews, but you know what? There's 3 or 4 of them on there that say I suck, but that's okay. I'm not upset about that.
Right.
You know what? I probably had a bad day. I'm a human being. You know what I mean? Sometimes it happens. But you can come here and just hang out and talk, and I don't judge. It's not like some stores don't want to talk about hexes or good or bad or left or right or up or down. I try to denounce left and right and good and bad. It's just the work at hand,
Right. Now,
and I
go
share
ahead.
that. No.
Now you mentioned you were talking a little while ago about people coming in and getting this information and using the information in their everyday lives. So, in your opinion, what would happen if the majority of people out there started to actually use ceremonial magic in their own lives to influence their lives as well as the world around them? How do you think that would affect society?
I think societally, I think it would be an amazing experience. Because and we're not talking about just ceremonial magic, even though we're stating it that. Ceremonial magic, again, is amazing. I mean, when you talk about ceremonial magic, really, ceremonial magic is less about causing change with will and more about harmonizing yourself with the feminine, the masculine, the energy, the middle pillar. It's very Jungian in theory. Okay. So it's a theoretical process of being the better person that you can be. Your holy guardian angel is your God self. It's bringing down the divine light of Keter into your sphere and harmonizing with the Sephiroth on the tree to equilibrate and balance your life and live higher and live better. I mean, what would be wrong with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, it all sounds great. It's just a matter of getting past the fear, I think, that people have, the fear of the unknown, because at the end of the day, and it's ironic because religion has been out there for millennia, and that's truly unknown, but people, because it's been worked into their belief system from day one, they grow up believing it. Something like this, the Wiccan tradition or any one of these other metaphysical traditions, that's not typically what people go from day one learning. Yeah. And I think that's really the only reason why that isn't as popular as Catholicism or any other religion out there. Yeah.
And also when you join the Golden Dawn, you can still be Christian and join it. You can be worshiping the Quran, or any of the other systems of theology and still work in the Golden Dawn. This has nothing to do. You don't have to be pagan or worship pagan gods or be Wiccan or be a witch and work in the Golden Dawn system. It wasn't developed that way. If you look at literally the way they developed it, I mean, they took the Hebrew system of Kabbalah, they brought in some of the Egyptian and some of the Greek systems, and in some of the rituals, we work with the Egyptian gods to connect with that, do God forms within that energy. We also, will work with some Babylonian. There's Babylonian in there. There's Christian mythos in there. There's an amalgamation of all that work. When it was developed in what I think 1864. I mean, it was an offshoot of the Rosicrucian lodges and the Masonic lodges.
Okay.
But it was the first of its kind in that women and men were really equal in a mystical system.
Yeah.
Fratres and sorors were together working their magic. When you're in temple, doesn't matter what your gender was. Okay, you're both in there and they're equal.
Right.
So when they started working with that circle of mysticism and working with like the Hebrew god names, like a lot of people that are witches and Wiccans don't like the Golden Dawn stuff. A, because it's too structured, and B, because they mention the word God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is that? Because a lot of people that come over into Wicca and the neo-paganism or goddess religions, the last thing they want to see is anything that reminds them of their Christian upbringing.
Right.
See? So that happens a lot.
And it sounds like a lot of this is polytheistic.
Very
you're
much
saying
so.
you're bringing in many different gods from different religions
Mm-hmm.
that are out there. Everybody kind of got a little bit of it right, but not all of it right.
Yeah.
So when people are like, let's use Christian or any Christian religion,
Yeah.
Catholics or whoever, when they are praying to God, the single
Mm-hmm.
monotheistic God,
Mm-hmm.
are they in essence praying in your mind to all of these polytheistic gods, and they are just being worked on and helped and acted on the behalf of all of them, but they only consider it to be one? Is that how that would work?
Do I see that way?
Yeah.
Are you asking me my personal view on that? I would say that there's, when you start dealing with the different theosophies and theologies, the aspect of Hecate, is there a Christ energy in Hecate? For sure. Is there Osiris energy in Christ? For sure. Mithratic energy? For sure. A lot of these things assume the old and to develop their system. And because I think it's really funny. I was talking about this with my wife the other night, because my wife is from Greece. She lived there partially, and her family is all from Crete. And we just got on the topic of pagan gods and religions and stuff like that. And it's so funny how the Greek gods, whether you're dealing with the Titan energy or the Olympian energy, okay, or for that, if that fact out of that area, and in the continent of Africa, when you're working with the Voodoo, or Egypt, same continent, but a different set of gods, that's all Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, African mythology. But then when they talk about Christianity, it's like a factual process.
Right.
It makes no sense, because that would be mythos as much as the others would.
Oh, and, absolutely. Yeah.
I have nothing against Christianity or the Christian faith. I think it's a beautiful faith, and I think it does wonderful things. It's not the religion; it's the man that wields the religion that does the harm. Right. And just like the pagan gods, it's the age of Aquarius, and we've been waiting for that since we've heard the song 50 years ago. But that's like a couple hundred years of wait. But still, it's going to change eventually. And there's going to be another situation going on, and that will fall into mythos as well. But I think that energy of deity is there. When I'm calling down Yorevohe, or Adonai Haaretz, and working with the Hebrew energies, I'm calling in and channeling the energies of these deity names. Is that because I worship Yorevohe? No. It's because when you are using the words Yod He Vohe, what you're doing is opening up a line into the aether. It's battery. It's the sound. It's the form. It's the current pushing out of the body and coming forward. And that lighting up that line to the astral plane does work. It's just like when you're Buddhist and you say Nam-myoho Renge Kyo in Nichiren Shoshu. That's just like saying Adonai Haaretz.
Yeah.
It's battery, it's tonalities, it's resonance, and
So
it connects to the ether.
It's more about the functionality of the sound than anything else.
Mixed with the divine light of
Okay.
of what? But what is that divine light? The divine light is in you.
Right.
The divine light is in me. But does that mean anthropomorphically deities don't exist?
Yeah.
I used to think so. Now I put used to there
Right.
because I've in my recent years, I've fallen into the old time religion. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're in a temple to my goddess. And yeah, I work with the feminine energy. I work with Hecate. And prior to working with her, I never worked with a deity. I always channeled the energy, took on the god form of Anubis, respected it, charged it, stepped into it, did my work, and then let it dissipate and go back up into the ether. But when I was in Greece, she came to me. And I always tell people it was like a donkey punch. She hit me in the back of the head. And she's been with me for 5 years. And every day I live through her.
Okay.
Which not like my father getting down every night on his hands and knees and praying. Every night by midnight, I am doing a series of 15-minute rituals every single night of my life. And then I light a tea light and I go to bed. And then when I get up, I have a specific way I put on my certain jewelry. And it's ritual for me because it's my way of connecting with my goddess.
Right, exactly. Now you mentioned the divine light, and a couple minutes ago when I asked that question, my light went out here. So I figured, my that's why I'm in the dark here.
We want it to descend. We don't want it to go out.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, do people have to believe in magic for it to actually happen for them?
Great question. Magic is super important. You have to be dominant with magic. When we talk about magic with a K, okay, my version of this is not written in any lead scribe or on the wall in some tomb. This is my view on how I see it. When you say magic to me, I take the concept of Crowley's causing change in conformity with your will. Okay. I utilize that in the physical plane. By doing that, I work through Ptolemaic structure and scale. I connect to the 7 ancient planets, not the modern planets that we have seen, but the ancient planets, where we get the names of the days of the week. And every one of those has a certain draw on the individual. And if you channel and work with that energy and associate it via color and herb with specific time, this is how we create spellcraft. And that is it in a nutshell. It's a little more than that, but you have to believe in what you're doing. Sure, you have to believe in it. You have to dominate it. When I say that, you don't go in and grab your incantation and be like, I really want to have a new car by next month. If I can get enough money, it's not that way. You're like, I want a new fucking car. I want it next week. It's going to look like this. And I am enforcing my intent. And if I have to be angry and scream at the pen as I'm writing it down, or if I'm angry and I am furious and the Italian in me comes out, or if I'm emotional over something that hurts and I'm crying and the tears are dropping on the page, I'm invoking that energy into my incantation.
So it's about the intent and the emotion.
Intent and emotion and specific mathematics and equations. Okay, when you combine all those things, you enforce that. It's not an affirmation, though. It's not like an affirmation board where you're like, I want a new car, a new house, the pretty girl sitting by the pool. It's not that.
Right.
It's specific reasons for specific things. And once I do that work and I step away from it it's out of my mind.
Right.
I don't focus on it. The worst thing you can do is have a candle burning, and maybe this candle is worth going for a week because it has to move through all the planets and come back around to where it started. Hypothetically, let's say Mercury. We started on a Wednesday in the Mercury hour, and it makes it through the 7 days. It ends, it should be burning basically around, by the ending, it should be Mercury the next week. Okay. But what you don't want to do is go up to that candle and be like, how's it doing today? Because the minute you acknowledge that it's burning, you've defeated your work, because that should already be out of the conscious, because we want it in the subconscious mind, because that is the way that we get it to attach to the astral plane, and the astral plane will mimic what we want to reflect that down in the physical realm to cause the manifest to occur.
To check on it, to constantly go back and get affirmation. It's right. It's like a sign. It's like weakness. It's like you're not sure.
Yeah, I've already done it. It's already done. When I do the work, the minute I'm building the work, the minute I'm prepping the work, the minute I light the candle, it's already over.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a conversation with my wife a few weeks ago where I said something similar. Like when I really get pissed off, like if I get angry at something, I say, I want this to be the case. And that's it. It oftentimes, more often than not, when I get to that point, it happens. And it's funny you mentioned that, because it kind of falls in line with what you're saying there.
Yeah, it does. But now if you channeled that and you did that in a Saturnian hour to do some type of binding work, it would happen that fast. It's
really?
Like, boom. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it does work. People are like, the spells work. Will it work? How long do I have to wait? That's the other question that you get in spellcraft. But magic does not work in linear time.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way. That's why it's gone out of my head, because I'm not looking at the clock, But now if you have to have that bill paid by Thursday the 17th, and it's, 2 weeks earlier around the 1st, you know what I mean? You want to do that work. Of course, you don't want to just be like, oh, I did a spell, it's going to come. That's kind of asinine.
Right.
I mean, you want to go out. You don't want to see the guy going out in the backyard clipping off the electric, because otherwise you can't watch your favorite TV show and your wife's going to kick your head in. So it's like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I don't want to piss my wife off. So it's like, shit, pay the bill, but it's still, you can make that happen. And that is going to cause that change to happen. I believe that. And have I seen spellcraft work fast? Incredibly so.
Interesting.
And have I done things that some people are going to be like, well, I don't agree with that. That's okay. Because no one, me, a book, Aleister Crowley, or his grandmother, I don't care who you are, nobody should tell you what you should or should not be doing.
Right.
When I get up and I'm doing a spell that might be of an aggressive nature or a combative nature, when I step up to the plate to do that working, I know within my soul of souls that I'm justifying what I'm doing. And if for some reason there's a voice in my head that says, you better just chill out for a minute, I'll back the hell off and come back and visit it the next day.
Right.
There's no rush, but no one morally should tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Some people say binding is bad. Well, I bound somebody a month and a half ago that was beating the hell out of his wife. It doesn't happen anymore.
Now, it's interesting. I read, I forget where I read this. It's somewhere I was reading about your past, your history, and your opinions on things. And I read somewhere where you wrote that if someone comes in and asks you to do something like a binding ritual for them, that doesn't fall on you. That falls on them, even though they're not the one who literally did the ritual. Is that correct? That is a theory. That is definitely a theory. I don't let things confront me. Whenever I do my work, I've got protections around me in so many ways. I'm wearing things. There's things on my walls. There's things, oil thrown out. There's always consecrations done. There's always stuff protecting me. I've got multiple barriers protecting my work.
I mean, without going too crazy and sounding like a loon here, because some people are going to watch this recording and be like, that guy's a little off to the left. But last night, 15 hours ago, I did what some would consider to be an exorcism in this room on somebody.
Really?
I had to, yeah, good. And it was a service, and I helped the person. It's therapeutic, but it's not the Christian version of an exorcism. Let's be clear with that. That word is such a broad thing. Your head's not spinning. It's not the movies. Right, but it was somebody that had something on them that I needed to remove. And I took them through a process and removed it.
Do they have to be present for that, or can that be done over distance?
It's definitely you want them there. Astral work that's a really hard thing to do astrally. But the work is the work. I care about people. I care about what I do. I'm a good person, but I don't do good or bad. I don't do good things to get a badge that says I'm a good guy. Right. I do good things because my mom taught me better. Mm-hmm. I don't care what color, race, creed, gender choice you are. If you're across the street and you're carrying a bunch of bags and I look out my window, I've literally left my register to help somebody do it. But that's not because I want to be a cool guy. It's because it's just the fucking right thing to do, man. That's how I was taught, But that doesn't mean I won't put on the gloves and go to town. I will, mm-hmm. It's my responsibility as a person that has the ability. A gun, I'm sorry, a gun. A spell is like a weapon or like a gun, okay? Mm-hmm. And you should know what you're doing. You should have knowledge in what you're doing. This is where eclecticism nowadays has become sloppy. If you take a firearm and you put rounds in it and you rack it and you chamber a round and you lay it on the counter, it's going to sit there and collect dust until somebody picks it up. And if somebody picks it up, more times than not, they're going to shoot themselves or someone else. Someone's going to be hurt because this is something that needs to be diligent about and have training in and understand how to use a firearm. And at best, you should know how to disarm a weapon, not fire it. Worry about how to get the rounds out of it, how to take that round out of the tube, how to make it so it's not harmful. Okay. Right. And if you don't know how to do that, don't just be like, well, I'm on Instagram. It says to rack it back and hopefully press this button and the rounds will fall at the bottom.
Right.
No, you don't do that. You take your time, you get teaching, and then you know that this gun needs to have the power taken out of it. This gun has to be put away. Okay. That's the same thing with witchcraft and spellcraft. And people out there are thinking, oh, no, I've got this Instagram, and right now Instagram and TikTok is saying, I need a green candle and I need to light it tonight and I need to put this on it and I need to put my spit on it and I need to call this word and turn around 3 times. Okay. Why does it tell you to do that?
Right.
Why do you have to turn around 3 times? Why is it a green candle? If you don't know, then you shouldn't be doing this. And that doesn't mean Sal's special and you're not. That means you need to take 6 months of your life and study a system. Eclecticism is a word that people use nowadays to basically say, well, I'm eclectic. I kind of do what I feel is my intent. That's great, okay, to a degree. Mm-hmm. Eclecticism without a foundation is chaos.
Right.
If you have a foundation and then you build, and now you've got a foundation in witchcraft, a foundation in ceremonial magic, at least be able to talk about it. Now you know that green is Netzach on the tree of life, and in the Briatic scale, it is going to cause this to happen, therefore it's going to attract what you need. Now you're starting to understand the components of your mathematical equation. But if you don't, it's chaos.
Right. So, Sal, this has been a really interesting conversation. I know we only touched on a very small portion of what we could have talked about here tonight. But before we wrap up, I want to ask, our listeners everybody has their own, I'm sure, 1,000 questions and 1,000 issues that they may use, things like ceremonial magic, tarot, readings, anything like that to kind of take control of. But in your experience, what is one piece of advice you could give to the listeners that want to take better control of their world around them and their own lives?
Can this go for about 2 minutes?
Sure.
This answer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to lead to it. I tend to talk a lot about things, but okay.
That's fine.
When I was young, I was this magician that wanted everything to happen. And I was doing spells for the girl, spells to get a better car, spells to get the cool outfit to wear to the club, spells mostly to get the women that I wanted, because I was just women struck at that age of my life. And I was using spells. And one of my teachers told me, he's like, you are the magician in the tarot cards right now. And you're manifesting and trying to build and create all this stuff happening around you. He's like, someday you're going to leave that behind, that magician card, and you're going to go into the hermit card. And when you do, as you walk through life, flowers will push up out of the ground. And I'm like, that's so lame. But he was right. And my point is, take your time. There is no rush to what you're doing. Don't ever feel intimidated by asking a question. Don't go to an Instagram or a TikTok or some one-page answer. Go to an occult shop in your town. If you don't have one, start buying books. Call me and say, Sal, I'm in Nebraska and I need to know this. And I will give you 15 minutes of my time. And if there's a reputable occult shop out there, they're going to invest their time in you to give you that information. If you walk into a store and they're looking down their glasses and their nose at you, fuck off, man. Go to another store, buy a book. Because this is not sacred knowledge the way they treat it, okay? They're not better than you, and nobody is a natural witch. That's another word that is bullshit. You're not hereditary. Witchcraft is simply acknowledging the fact that you want to work with the harmony of the elements and the planets to cause change with will. And as soon as you acknowledge that and understand that a witch is a human being, it's non-binary. It doesn't make a man a warlock and a woman a witch. That is bullshit. That's books. That's books and movies, fantasy. Okay, a witch is a person that is taken upon this spot to cause change with their will and live in a certain way. Okay, find the knowledge, speak, but just don't rush through things. Time is always on your side.
All right. Well, Sal Santoro, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show tonight and giving us your time. You are the co-proprietor of the Crooked Path out in Burbank, California. Please let our listeners and viewers know how they can get a hold of you and anything else you want to promote on the show that you guys may be doing out there.
I'm really, really bad at this, but I'm going to try my hardest because there's so many of those little tag names. Instagram is the Crooked Path _LA. There is the Crooked Path Occult, which is our Facebook page. And we are at the crookedpathshop.com. You can find us at 2020 West Magnolia Boulevard in the city of Burbank, California. And my name is Sal Santoro, and we're here every day from 12 to 6, practicing safe standards in a COVID environment. When you come in our place, everybody puts on gloves. We supply them for you. And everybody must wear a mask. Be safe and vote this election.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thank you very, very much. Again, I appreciate you coming on the show, and we will definitely link to all that stuff on our show notes so people can see that when the audio version of the podcast drops in a couple days.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for all your amazing. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you.
You really are. And in the near future, I'm going to be starting my own podcast, it looks like, so with a partner. And I'm going to find you, and I'm going to bring you on to talk about paranormal stuff. Because there's things I want to know about Stephen Greer, because I just got CE5 on my phone.
Okay.
And I need to find out about that stuff. So thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Sal. And again, the Crooked Path, Sal Santoro. Thank you for coming on Paradelphia, and have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
So, yeah, that was definitely a cool interview. Sal's a good guy. He's very interesting. And again, I dig the way he looks at things.
Yeah.
He kind of just basically says, this stuff isn't all negative. There's a lot of positive to this occult witchcraft stuff, and you just have to look in the right places and find the right angle to look at it, and you'll see it in a different way.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig his outlook. I dig his vibe. It was very, very cool.
Yeah. So again, we'll link to all those places in the show notes. The Crooked Path Shop, I believe, was his website, and he's on Facebook, and I believe he's on Instagram. I think he said too. And if you happen to be out in California near Burbank, he is out there. His shop is located just, I guess, right outside of Hollywood. So he, he's in the hot spot for all that energy, all that crazy energy.
There you go. And Toxic Mom was texting me during the interview. She loved it. She went to his shop online, said it was amazing, and so
very cool.
A lot of people dig in the interview.
Very cool. Before we get going tonight, though, I do want to give a couple more shout outs. Number one, last week we had Don and Vicky Smeraldi on from Scary Monsters Magazine. And after the interview, I went into into the back portion of the magazine. And like we mentioned during the interview, they have a section in the back of their magazine that they sell. They have these sales sometimes on their old issues. And so they have a $3 sale right now on all their old back issues. And Scary Monsters is one of those magazines where I found out about it 4 or 5 years ago, and I wish I'd have known about it 25 years ago, because I would have been reading it for 25 years. But all that means is there's like 100 and some odd issues that I am unaware of. So I ordered a couple of them from their back catalog, like a couple $3 issues from like the mid 90s. And that came a few days ago. But they also, in addition to the ones I ordered, they also sent me a third one, which was from around the same time. And they sent me issue number 1 of the magazine from 1991, which was really cool, because you could really see how the magazine started out with. Basically, it was a guy named Dennis Drakenis, I believe his last name is. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but he started the magazine by himself as a young 20-something kid that just had a passion for these movies. And you could really see how basically he had like some basic graphic design capabilities. We were, back then I was taking computer classes in college too. We were doing, we did shit on Mac, the old Mac computers, the original Macintosh. And that's what you did back then. And you could really tell that this was basically just something he threw together, and, he really got into it. The first issue was basically like 7 or 8 movies. He just wrote write-ups on these movies, threw them together. He had like a comic strip in there, I believe, and a couple of ads maybe. And that was basically the magazine. But it looked like something that you made on a computer in like a college lab. But as time went on, he got better at doing what he was doing, and he got more people writing for him, and the evolution of the magazine became apparent a few issues later, and now here we are 30 years later, and it's you hear me talk about this magazine all the time. I think it's one of the best ones going, if not the best one going for the genre. So it's just amazing how something that they started way back when, or he started way back when, is just this like passion project turned into this full-fledged cottage industry 30 years later. So very, very cool on his part. And thank you to Don and Vicky for doing that.
Absolutely.
The other thing I wanted to mention, this talked a little bit about next week's show. Next week, we're not going to have him on for the full time, but we are going to have an old friend of ours back on. You heard him over the summer during the lead up to Blobfest back in July. Dash Daring from the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, PA. He is very cool. He's going to be back on again. Cool. Next week. He's going to give a little bit of an interview, because they are back again for the Halloween season. They are doing another one of their virtual events. This one is called A Nightmare on Bridge Street. All right, the Colonial Theater. It's going to be another virtual event. It's going to happen on October 10th. And what they're doing basically is they are selling tickets for $15. That's going to get your household. Your whole household is going to have access. And what they're doing is they're doing a program that starts at 6:00 that evening with some creepy cartoons, and then they're going to have 4 classic monster movies running from 6:30 until 10:45. The Bat, Plan 9 from Outer Space, Dementia 13, and finishes up with Night of the Living Dead. They're going to have T-shirts. I think they're selling. It sounds like a fun night. And Dash is going to be on next week to talk a little bit about this and explain a little bit more about what they're doing out there. But again, it's another fundraiser for the theater during this time when they obviously they don't have regular crowds coming in. They didn't have a chance to do their normal events this year. The Blob Fest. They had one in the fall. They usually do that's like a slasher. I forget what it's called, but it was like a slasher con kind of thing, and they couldn't do any of that stuff. So these virtual events are what's keeping them going. So we really want to promote them and make sure that theater hangs on, because once this COVID stuff goes away, we're going to be back full blast. Back hopefully next year. Out at Blobfest 21. Yes. All right. So that's about it for the evening. Again, I want to thank Sal Santoro for coming on. The crookedpathshop.com is where you can find his wares. And again, we'll link to all his stuff in our show notes. And so that's about it, Mike. You got anything else you want to throw in there?
I'm awesome. But also go ahead and make sure, if you haven't done it already, download the Toxic Radio app for all the shows on the network, and just keep rocking out and enjoying the show. And make sure that you go over. This is a great thing for anybody who's watching live or listening later on who hasn't done this yet. Go over to iTunes, and we don't say this enough. They still do it where you can give it a 5-star review and write a little thing there. So go do that. Go do that.
And it helps, because the more reviews you get on iTunes, it pops you up and you become more visible to more people on the servers.
Yeah. And any platform that you listen on, if it has a place to say, "Hey, this show was awesome," or "Hey, these guys rock," it doesn't take that much time, but it does help out a ton.
Yeah. All right. So for Toxic Mike, I am Rick. This has been Paradelphia, and we are out of here.